And the unique thing about us is that every time we bring that feeling up new, we bring that before God and say, God, I know you can do all these things, but you really can't do nothing about this feeling. Let that sink in for a second. So imagine us, the creation of the Creator, going before Him and saying, I know that you can create trillions of cells and form them into a specific place where my stem cells regenerate and produce brains and do all these kind of things. I know you can do all that. And I know I breathe not of my own accord. I know I walk and I know I can see. And these things are so complex that I can't even comprehend. But this feeling, no, you can't do nothing about this. No, you really can't do nothing about this. And that's why Jesus, right in the middle of teaching how to pray, He says this, almost like a schizophrenic moment, if you will, where I just jump to a completely different thing and I say, hey, while you're praying, forgive. Because if you don't forgive, then your Father won't forgive you. But I'll tell you what's really happening. And I'm a science type guy, so I like to understand the science of it, if you will. So I'll tell you what's happening. So when we keep this unforgiveness before God, what we're actually doing is bringing back the feeling to God every time. So we bring back this feeling to God every time. So if you think about it right now, that spanking that you got when you were 12 years old or 10 years old or 8 years old, if you think about it hard enough, you could feel that spanking all over again. You could feel that spanking all over again. I remember there would be times, me and my mom would go back and forth in the store. She wasn't a real whooper, but she was a slapper. She would boom, slap me. And then, that would be what it is, and we're going about our business. But if I think hard enough, I can feel that slap. And that's what we do every time we bring back this unforgiveness. You know what? She did look at me funny. You know what? We haven't been getting along anyway. She thinks she's something. She thinks that she's better than everybody else. And this is a small example, but you could put forth your example, and we won't get too raw about examples because each one of us has our unique examples and unique stories. But what we do is we bring that same feeling back to God every single time we show up to pray. And you can think about it now. The moment that I say, she really did look at me that way, you feel that. You feel that, yeah, she looked at me funny. Yeah, I felt that way about them. Yes, they mistreated me. And then what we do is we take that feeling, that energy before God. And God says this, God says, I am spirit. And those that worship me must worship me in spirit. So our prayer, this energy that we exude, is spirit. Have you ever thought about that? This energy that I send up before God, it's spirit. This prayer that I send up before God, it's spirit. Yes, I say it audibly. Sometimes I don't say it audibly, but I'm sending up spirit to connect with spirit because we don't have anyone to physically come and talk to about this. So what this does, it begins to cloud. It begins to cloud. It begins to cloud. It begins to cloud this spiritual connection between myself and God. And that's why it was so important that Jesus brought this up. Hey, in the middle of your prayers, if that thought, that offense jumps into your mind while you're praying, go fix it. Go fix it. So that you will not be limited and that your prayers that you bring before me will be heard. Is this helping anybody? And so one thing that I want to bring up, and then we'll be closing, the self-forgiveness. This thing of self-forgiveness. And so while I was meditating on this scripture and meditating on this particular part, I just kept being taken back to the children of Israel when they were wandering 40 years in the wilderness. Now it's like, how does this have to tie in with self-unforgiveness? What does this apply? How do those two correlate? But every time they would say, you know what, it was better over there. Every time they would say, you know what, I don't know about this God thing. Every time they would get into this entanglement of bringing back the past. And that's what unforgiveness is. It's this entanglement of bringing back past occurrences that hold us back. So it brings back anger. It brings back jealousy. It brings back resentment. It brings back the things that disconnect us from God. And so that's what was happening. Every time they would say, we're grasshoppers. Every time they would say, I'm a grasshopper, I can't go to the promised land. That's what we do to ourselves. We say, I'm a grasshopper because I was at the club and, you know, they don't teach about the club, and I fornicate, and I did all these things before, and I got forgiveness, but every time I show up, I bring it with me because, God, I'm not sure if you forgave me. And so what we're doing is we're bringing back every time, hey, I'm a grasshopper. I'm a grasshopper. I'm a grasshopper. So what happened with the children of Israel? The only ones that went over were the ones that didn't have the past. Think about that. The only ones that went over were the ones that didn't have the past. And so for us, we have a unique opportunity. Jesus came, and you all can stand. Jesus came. Jesus came. Jesus came with this unique opportunity. And this unique opportunity is that at any moment we can be forgiven. At any moment we can bring those thoughts that hold us, that keep us tied to the wilderness. Those ways of unforgiveness for my own self that tie me down to the wilderness. Jesus came that we may be free from that. And he says it like this. He says, the peace that I give to you will surpass even our own understanding. And so, yes, I'm justified. I can be justified in feeling the way I felt because, yes, they did hurt me. Yes, they did disappoint me. Yes, they did discourage me. Yes, they did hold me back. But the unique thing about God, the unique thing about Jesus, is at this very moment, he says, cast your cares upon me. Because why? He cares for us. And you know how we were talking earlier about how do I get in? What is that getting in? What does that even look like? Again, the same formula. I close my eyes and I bring that thing back to my remembrance. That hurt back to my remembrance. That one person that did this awful thing to me back to our remembrance. And then, even as we picture ourselves, we give it to God. We give that feeling to God. We give that emotion to God. God, you can have my hurt. God, you can have my pain. God, you can have my discouragement. God, you have it. God, you have it. And the beautiful thing is God says he will give you joy for your sorrows. He will give you peace for your mourning. All you have to do is give it to him. All you have to do is give it to him. So now we leave this segment of time for you to give it to him. We got 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Give it to him. Give it to him. Give the hurt. Give the pain. Give the anguish. Give the sorrow. Give the misuse. Give it to him. Give it to him. Give it to him. Give it to him. He's there waiting. He's there waiting. He's there waiting with open arms. So give it to him. Thank you that you have heard our prayers. We thank you that you have given us joy for our pain. We thank you that you have given us hope for our discouragement. We thank you that you have given us peace that now surpasses even our own understanding. We thank you that even if I go to look back for that feeling, that it's gone. We thank you that the feeling is gone, the heart, the hurt, the malice, the envy, the strife is gone, God, because we gave it to you today. And we thank you that you have taken it all, and now it is thrown into the sea of forgetfulness to be remembered no more. Even say this with me: I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I let myself go. I let it go. I let it go. I let it go, and I move forward in the newness of God. I forgive myself. If you prayed that prayer and you receive it, put your hands together and give God thanks. Give God thanks. God, we thank you. Give God thanks. 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 You already seated. You already seated. I would like to take